you've been watching any of my videos recently, you'll see I've been talking a lot about building a brand, moving away from just selling on Amazon, using Amazon for all that it is because it's amazing, but moving beyond just Amazon so that your business isn't in the hands of the whims of Jeff Bezos and team, but actually you build something that's coherent, long-lasting, and secure. And there's lots of aspects to that, one of which we're going to talk about today in this video, which is what website options can you choose for your website that are both easy to set up, but also give you the assets and the data that you need to build a real brand. Let's get into it. Welcome to the video today, guys. Listen, if you want to build a real brand, something that's secure, something that lasts the long haul, then make sure you're subscribed, because that's the journey that I'm going on and that I desire to, continue to work on. And I'm going to be showing you that whole path every week, going to be updating you on the brands that we're building, showing you what we're doing, how we're doing it, the successes, the failures. So feel free to subscribe to learn more about that. But one of the things we're really working hard on inside our community at the moment is upgrading and improving our training to really go broader than just selling on Amazon. It's always been a passion of ours of building brands, but as we've actually been doing that over the last few years and exploring different things, seeing what other people have been doing, we've really been working on how to build a long-term secure brand. And what we've identified is that there are some key aspects to that. There's things like products you develop, of course, but there are other things, some things that really need to be considered if you're going to build a brand that has strength, that isn't just in the hands of Jeff Bezos, but actually you have some control over. And some of that is things like assets that you own, so customer data, being able to actually contact your customers is like a prerequisite of a real business, a real brand. And then things like traffic sources you control. Having control and ownership is a big part of having a brand, and a big part of having that control and ownership is by having your own website or your own online presence. There might be people out there that would say, you just sell on Amazon and you don't need your own website. And I think the extreme version of that is not true. I think there's some middle ground perhaps that could be true for some people. But I want to really just reach out to the people that do want to build a real long-lasting brand and do want to have an online presence for that brand outside of just Amazon. Nothing against Amazon. We still sell on Amazon. The bulk of our revenue comes from Amazon. I love Amazon, but it doesn't just stop at Amazon. Amazon is a launch pad into something bigger and better. So what I thought I'd do for you today is go through all of the major options you have available to you to start a website for your brand, and talk about why they might be a good option, analyze them so you are at least more informed coming out of this video, so you can make a decision on whether you do go ahead with this, and if you do, what kind of option you go with. So let's dive into it. So as you can see here, we have got the different options for your website. Now, there are obviously a bunch of different options. There would be, hundreds of different sort of options to you, but I've tried to choose the main ones that most people would be drawn towards and talk through each of those. And they are of course, you've got here Shopify, you've got Big Commerce, you've got Wix, you've got WordPress, Squarespace, Landing Cube, and then the new Portals by Helium 10, which is a particularly interesting one we'll spend some time on. And so the things down here that I want to focus on with you are, number one, data. Right? Data being, can you collect data of your customers? Can you collect their names? Can you collect their email addresses? Now, of course, we know you can't do that anymore on Amazon. You haven't been able to really for a long time. You can collect some things like name and address, but even that is being restricted over time and will become more and more so. So we want to be able to build assets off of Amazon so that we have some control in our business. And one of those assets is customer data. The next thing is traffic. One of the keys to building a brand that you have control over is having traffic sources you control that can't be shut down overnight because of an infringement policy that was incorrectly labeled upon you, as can happen with Amazon. It's very rare and you shouldn't worry and lose sleep over it, but it can happen, and if we want to have true control, we want to avoid it ever happening to us. And so that's that one. And then we're going to look at sales. Can you collect sales? Because again, if you want to diversify, being able to actually collect sales off of this is good, because if you're just sending all of your traffic to Amazon to collect that money, again, if that gets shut down, you've got no way of collecting money. So we're going to look at that. Then we're going to look at ease of setup. We're going to look at ease of upkeep, how flexible it is to make it look, feel, and respond like you want it to. And then, of course, the $1 million question: how much does this all cost? Right. So we're going to go through each of these, and I'm hopefully going to do it in a very succinct way that doesn't take forever, but let's go through each of these. Firstly, we're going to start with data. We're going to look at this section here, and we're going to look through each one of these. The good thing about all of these when it comes to collecting customer info is that you can both collect email and you can pixel the user, right? So you can use something called the Facebook pixel. You can install it on each of these options, which then allows you to gather data about how customers behave on your website, but also offer targeted advertising to them on Facebook, which can be one of your biggest revenue streams outside of Amazon. So the good news is that each of these options allows you to both have an email collection option and also put your pixel on this different system so that you can collect that data about the user. Of course, there's varying ranges of that, and how that works is a bit more of a complex issue, but I did do a video recently on how to install the Facebook pixel, which you can find on my YouTube channel, which may be of some use to you. So that is data. Next, we're going to look at traffic. And when it comes to traffic, the question I'm asking with this one is, can you use that system, that site, to actually generate organic traffic? You see, what we want with our website is it to be somewhere people can return to, people can visit, and it's a traffic source that is not dependent on a Facebook ad account or an Amazon account, but actually it organically can just generate traffic for us. Now, again, very deep and complex topic, but in terms of the best way to do that in 2020 is by building relevant, helpful content on that site. So the question I'm asking with this is, can you post long form content, blogs, articles, content around your product, around your niche? If you have a fitness product, you might want to do, the 10 best ways to stay fit, how to work out from home, all this kind of stuff. How can you be found on the internet by someone who may have an interest in your products? Then when they come to that website, they would then sort of look around and find your products, right? That's search engine optimization. It's not new, but it's something that a lot of Amazon sellers don't think about, because Amazon is such a big source of traffic. It's all they ever focus on until that time, as when it doesn't all work out, and there may be some challenges with that. So we want to create some diversity of traffic, and so we need to have an ability to be able to create content, add it to the website. Now, Shopify have a great blog platform which you can do this. It features great SEO capabilities, and makes that definitely available for you. Same with Big Commerce. This is a feature within the tool of Big Commerce. Big Commerce is very similar to Shopify. I should probably clarify just in terms of these what these tools are. These two here, Big Commerce and Shopify, they are very much e-commerce platforms. They're like back-end platforms where you build your website, you can process payments, you can build your customer list, all that kind of stuff. That's what these two are. When it comes to Wix, WordPress, and Squarespace, they are more website builders, generic website builders that you can add e-commerce functionality to. And then you've got Landing Cube and Portals by Helium 10, which is they're just landing page software. So not really a website, but you just create single-use landing pages that kind of facilitate certain behaviors between your customers and Amazon. And so there's kind of a range of different options there. So both Shopify and Big Commerce, you can use the blog feature to create some SEO traffic, and then also the same with Wix, WordPress, and Squarespace. A lot of people would say WordPress is the best option for SEO. Generally speaking, it's the most SEO friendly option, but there are some other things to consider going down this that we'll talk about with WordPress. The downside of Landing Cube and Helium 10 is neither of them allow you to create content around your niche, around your product, and so you really are restricted to driving paid traffic or traffic that you've built up through another list somewhere, maybe like an Instagram following or something. You need to leverage those options to be able to drive traffic to these two ones here, and so that's kind of a negative on their perspective. Then in terms of sales, can you generate sales with any of these options? Of course, Shopify and BigCommerce, that's exactly what they're designed to do. You can receive payments on them by default. That's the exact purpose of them. Then Wix, WordPress, and Squarespace, you absolutely can receive payments on them. You need to add e-commerce functionality, which is usually like an app or an add-on, but that is available to you. And then again, unfortunately, when it comes to Landing Cube and Helium 10's portals, you can't receive payments on it. So whilst they are easier to set up, which we'll talk about in a moment, there are some downsides to them, and I will kind of review everything at the end, but just going through these one by one. Next up is setup. How easy are they to set up? I'm going to rate these out of 1 to 10, 10 being the easiest, the best score, 1 being the hardest, the lowest score. And I'm going to give Shopify and Big Commerce both a 5 because they're not crazy hard to set up. But there is some complexity, right? You do have to, spend some time learning the system, learning the nuances of it, especially if you want to get something that looks professional and doesn't look like you just pulled a template out of the box and changed your name at the top of the page, right? If you want to get something that is on brand, that is looks professional, then you do need to put a bit of work into it, and you do need to go on a bit of a learning curve. So it's not the drag and drop ease of, say, Wix, which I would give maybe a 7, because it is drag and drop. What you see is what you get. You drag it in, it looks the way it looks, and you know how to drag it and drop it and move it all around. Whereas Shopify and Big Commerce are like sections. You have to build sections, and you choose which section and the layout and that kind of thing, rather than drag and drop. So there is a bit of difference there. So Wix is definitely an easier option for setup. WordPress, I'm going to give it really low. I'm going to say 2 for WordPress. 2 because it is the most complex of all of these to be able to set up. There are templates, of course, like anything, but there is more complexity to it. So from my experience, WordPress is the hardest to set up. So that's the trade-off that you get for maybe the best SEO compatibility. It is actually harder to set up in my experience. Then when it comes to Squarespace, again, it's very similar to Wix in terms of setup, so I'm going to give it a 7 there. And then Landing Cube is actually very easy, going to give it an 8, but the easiest of them all, I'm going to give the top score to Helium 10. And here's where Helium 10's portals comes into its own. Whilst you can't generate traffic from it with SEO content, blogs, etc., and you can't collect revenue from that portal, you actually can set it up really, really easily. There's some great templates on the portals that look stunning. They look really, really nice. So in terms of the end user experience, it's going to be a great option. But of course, the downside to that ease is that you are trading some of the other things that you don't get. Now, of course, you're not going to be able to do everything. And so some people starting out might say, well, hey, I'm just going to start with portals so that when I do a launch, I can collect emails and pixel that audience. At least that's better than nothing. Honestly, rather than sending them directly to Amazon when you're doing a launch, that is so much better than doing nothing. So if you don't like the idea of putting the work into the other aspects of the other options, then that could be a great option for you. Next up, we're going to look at upkeep. What is the kind of upkeep? How easy is it to maintain these things? And so we're going to look firstly at Shopify and Big Commerce. Again, very similar platforms. Shopify is by far and away the bigger option of these two, and that's the option that we use, and my favorite option, as you'll probably come to realize as I go through these. But they are similar in what they can offer. And in terms of upkeep, the thing that makes it easier is that there is like a back end with Shopify, wherein you can update your products in the back end, and then it will kind of auto-populate over all the different places on the website. It's not like if you create a page, you have to update every page where that product is featured. It kind of auto does that for you because it pulls the data through from the back end. Now, there are some things that we will talk about in the flexibility issue, which maybe affect Shopify a little bit negatively, as well as Big Commerce, but we'll talk about that in a moment. When it comes to Wix, again, pretty easy. I'm going to give that a 5 because if you want to change something, it's relatively easy to go in there and change it. The only thing I would say on Wix is that you are going to likely have to change more things in more places because it doesn't have the same system as Shopify in terms of pulling data through. And then WordPress is going to be the hardest one. I'm going to give that a 3 because it's going to be difficult to update these pages because they are more complex. Often there might be coding involved. Like, I'm not a WordPress expert, and somebody will probably tell me I got some of these aspects wrong, and I probably have, but these are my experiences, and just from playing around with it and seeing what's the best option for us. WordPress is a little bit harder to do maintenance on, takes a bit more time. And then Squarespace, I'm going to give a 5 again, similar to these other ones. It's not like the simplest thing. It does take time. But it's far easier than, say, WordPress. And then again, Landing Cube and Helium 10, I'm going to give those both a 9 because it's just so easy. You literally just go in and change a couple of links or update a promo. You can clone pages and all that kind of stuff, which makes it super easy to set up and use, and then super easy, obviously, to maintain. And then we're going to look at flexibility. What kind of flexibility do we have to create the kind of brand feel that we want to create for customers. And now I'm going to give Shopify a 7, but BigCommerce a 6. And it's the first time I'm going to separate these two in their gradings mainly because of the user base of Shopify, right? Shopify is one of the largest e-commerce platforms on the planet, and it is huge, right? And because of that, there are so many different app options available to you. So if there's something you want to do with Shopify and it doesn't come with Shopify out of the box, I can almost guarantee that there will be an app available for it. So when we're building our product pages on our Shopify website, we want to build long form pages, right? There's a reason Amazon has photos, bullet points, description, A+ content, long page, because it takes time to convert the customer from a browser to a buyer. And so unfortunately, Shopify's generic system only really allows for a very short description and a few photos, and that's it. It doesn't give you the ability to create long form pages that are unique to each product. And so what we use is apps that can actually help you build pages. Ezra Firestone has an app called Zipify Pages. It's quite expensive. We're currently using one called Pagefly, which is really good. Probably the best I've found so far. Gem Builder is also another good one we've used in the past. And these pages allow you to build long form sales pages for your products and use that within Shopify. So nice and flexible. BigCommerce has similar flexibility and functionality, but just because of its size, it's not as big a user base. Therefore, there aren't as many apps available for it, and so it just has a little bit less flexibility. And then when it comes to Wix and WordPress and Squarespace, you do have a bit more flexibility because of this ability to drag and drop and create individual pages. It's not as rigid and structured as, say, Shopify and BigCommerce. It does give you a lot more options for flexibility. And again, it's where WordPress comes into its own. I'll give that one a 9 because you do have so much ability to customize it. Like if you see a really nice e-commerce website that has amazing design and looks really eye-catching, loads of cool graphics and stuff like that, there's a good chance it's been built on WordPress. Not all the time, but there's a good chance it's been built on WordPress because there's so much flexibility available. Obviously, like we said, the offset against that is the hard setup, the challenging aspect of that. So again, if you got experience with building websites or can code, that kind of thing, then it may be something that you can create a really nice option, but there will be challenges along the way. Squarespace, again, I'm going to give it an 8 because it's similar to Wix in that drag and drop functionality and has the flexibility there. Then in terms of Landing Cube is very really inflexible. I'm going to give it a Landing Cube a 2 because it really doesn't have many options. You can add images and a few different things, but it doesn't give you the ability to really create a brand feel, partly because of the limitation of it just being a landing page service, but also because of the features involved in it. So I think, it's a simple way to start. If you don't have much knowledge or you don't necessarily feel like you're confident in making something look amazing, then Landing Cube would be a really easy option to start with. But something that kind of meets in the middle is Helium 10, because whilst it's not as flexible as your own website, you can't do as much with it, obviously. They do have a ton of different templates that are really, really flexible and can help you create brand values. It can make it look really good, and it can have flexibility of use as well there. It also pulls information through from your Amazon listing, which makes it easy to set up as well, which I really, really like. Final thing is the cost, just to go through, because I know you're all dying to either get off this video or find out how much they cost. Shopify starts at $13, it says on the website, but that is for just like a physical retail store rather than having an online store. So I know you're going to be interested in an online store, so we're going to say the online version is $29, and it goes all the way up to around $100 per month, depending on different parts of how much you need and what different features you need. Like all of these, of course, they're going to have a sliding scale. BigCommerce again starts at $29 and can go all the way up to $299. Wix, it starts at $23 with the full e-commerce option and goes up to $49. Wix is obviously one of the cheaper, and a lot of people are drawn to Wix initially because it looks free or it looks cheap. It looks very small amount. What I've found with Wix is they do really kind of not force you to take add-ons, but they really incentivize add-ons. They really incentivize kind of bumping your order up. And so you're drawn into it. You build the site thinking, man, this is cheap. It's going to be a great cheap option. But then if you want to do e-commerce, there's a monthly fee for that. If you want to do, different aspects of flexibility, there's an extra cost for that. And so, one of those hidden things with Wix is that there are those upsells that really you would want to make it more functional. So if you're thinking, should I go Wix or Shopify because of the price, I'm going to go for Wix, then I wouldn't sort of factor that in. I'd factor more of the other stuff than the price. WordPress, estimating around $50 a month. That's when you consider with WordPress, you're going to need to get your own hosting. You're going to need to consider the template, and those other different features that you're going to need with WordPress. Estimated, you can do it for less than that, but that's just to give you a bit of a guide. Squarespace starts at $26 for e-commerce and goes up to $40 a month. Landing Cube starts at $15 and goes up to $60 a month, and then Helium 10 is more expensive because it starts at $97, and you can also get the diamond plan, which is $197. But I would put a little asterisk there in that the reason it's more expensive is because portals, they become part of a suite of tools. You get a whole bunch of other tools with it. So you're not just paying for the landing pages on your website, but you're getting way more with that too. So that's why it's a bit more expensive. So in summary, there are a lot of available options to you, and the choice you would make depends on your circumstances. If you're a beginner and you really struggle with complexity and you don't know where to start and you feel like building a website is going to be crazy hard, then I'd recommend trying Landing Cube or Helium 10's portals. That's a way better option than not doing anything. But if you're someone who does want to really grow your brand, grow your traffic, then I highly recommend trying to learn the art of building a Shopify website. Shopify are one of the biggest e-commerce platforms for a reason. There's so much flexibility. You've got all the apps available to you, and it's a great way to build customer assets, to build traffic you control, and ultimately build a brand that has longevity, that you have control over, and you can build something awesome with. So that's kind of a bit of a summary. So if you're not already exploring the idea of building something for your brand off of Amazon, I highly encourage you to do it. And if you want to learn more about this, make sure you are subscribed, because I'm going to be continuing to talk about this kind of brand building stuff over the coming weeks and months. And also we're going to have some exciting new things coming up in the next few weeks to really give you an option to learn more about this in a more in-depth way. Got some exciting free training that's coming up soon. And stay tuned to hear more about that. If I can help with anything else, please feel free to contact us via the links around the video. There's the Brand Builder Bootcamp, which is a free training to help you get started with building a brand by leveraging the power of Amazon. Like I say, anything else, please do feel free to get in contact. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next video real soon.